The story unfolds with a voice narrating how he has just been reincarnated as a sword. When he wakes up to this realization, a voice in the wind tells him that he has a long way to go. Furthermore, he realizes that he is in a fantasy world where all his abilities are listed. While he tries to process this new realization, 4 goblins try to pull him out of the ground. At that moment, one of the goblins spits on him, and this angers him as he takes it as a declaration of war. Immediately he pulls himself out of the ground, and discovering that he has the power of telekinesis, which grants him the ability to move himself just by thinking about it, he attacks the goblins. Each kill gives him a sense of accomplishment that he hasn't felt in a while upon his reincarnation. On the other hand, the goblins are angry as they charge at the sword, forcing him to kill them all. After killing all 4 goblins, he notices that his stats are increased. Just then he discovers that they all possess crystals, which he had smashed while fighting them, allowing him to gain the abilities that the goblins possessed. This excites him. Utilizing one of the skills he had gained from the goblins, he digs graves for each of them and returns to the stop he had been fixed. Before, they had angered him. Now there he laments on how lonely he feels without a wielder. However, he comes to the resolution that he would start collecting skills. He does this because he wishes to become stronger for his future wielder. In a distant land from him, a slave girl named Fran wishes to become stronger, as she grows tired of her current life as a trade. While she is lost in thought, one of these slavers throws a rock at her, prompting her to return to work. She wishes more that she had the power to free herself from this pitiful life of slavery. Meanwhile, the sword begins his quest to acquire more skills and become more powerful. As it flies about the land, it sees a monster with tentacles, which at first proved to be much of a challenge. The monster grabs him, draining his energy. Fortunately, he cuts off the tentacles and kills the monster, breaking its crystal and taking its power. Hungry for more power, the sword decides to attack the goblin base. There he sets his sight at the Goblin King and in one charge successfully cuts off his head. This causes the goblins to panic. However, he sees the goblin mage and attacks it too, eventually wiping out the goblins and stealing their power. This act takes his sword art to level 3. At this point, he realizes just how astonishing a swordsman his wielder will be once they find him, and this makes him excited. Back at the slave camp, one of the slavers is about to hit a woman when Fran jumps in with his active insolence. The slaver commands her to bow down, and she does so immediately. This is possible because of the device which the slavers have put on their necks and wrists of the slaves, allowing them to obey commands without thinking. The slavers laugh at her futile attempt to be brave when she is pathetically weak. On the other hand, the sword continues its quest as it seeks out more powerful monsters and slays them. Having fought off a large number of monsters, he finds himself in an open land with no monster in sight. Getting there, he opts to land and puts itself on the ground to scout the area. With no monster in sight, he tries to fly away but is unable to. At this point, he realizes the reason why the monsters avoid the area. Apparently, the forest drains the power of the monsters that hover around it. Still sick, he is optimistic that a beautiful elven warrior would pass by and pick him up. However, it doesn't happen as he expects, as hours, days and months pass with no one knowing about his existence. At this moment, he becomes desperate to be wielded by anyone who would be so nice to pull him out. Meanwhile, the slavers get attacked on their way by a 2-headed bear. Scared for their lives, they command the slaves to stand still and remain as bait for the bear, allowing them a chance to run. Unfortunately, the bear catches up with one of them and kills him, freeing the slaves from his command. This allows the slaves a chance to run away. Fran, however, tries to attack the bear with a stick, but it hits her as she lands right in front of the sword. Determined to be strong, she grabs sword, and this allows him a chance to communicate with her using telepathy. Just as she is about to pull it out, the bear approaches her. But in a split moment, and just as the bear is about to get her, she pulls it out and flies into the air with a sword in her hands. He tells her to equip him and unlock its full potential. When she does this, she acquires extraordinary swordsmanship and skills that make her strong enough to charge at the monster and eventually slay the beast. With the monster dead, the second slaver reveals himself and commands her to hand over the sword. However, using telekinesis, the sword kills the slaver and frees her once again from her bond as a slave. After that, he begs her to be his wielder, and she accepts wholeheartedly, as the two seem to have found what they have always wanted: a wielder for the sword and power for Fran. How extraordinary do you think this partnership between Fran and the sword would be? He allows Fran to name him, and she decides on teacher since he plans to help her learn to evolve. It is then explained that these people take great pride in becoming stronger through evolution. Fran's parents took her on their journey to evolve, but they feel short as no black cat has ever evolved. Fran now sets out to fulfill their dream, and teacher explains that she actually has a knack for battle. With just a little bit of teaching, she is able to pick things up very quickly. More importantly, she is very nice to him, and he vows to help her achieve her goal. Fran senses something nearby and immediately goes to help people under attack. With teacher's help, Fran takes care of the goblins and he tells her never to reveal that he is a talking sword, since she is the only one that can hear his telepathy. The guard named Randall offers to give them a ride into town and is clear to our pair that he really just wants her to protect him. On the way, Randall explains that some trouble on the Great Wolf Plain as monsters all riled up. He assumes stronger monsters fighting is what has caused the weaker ones to gather near roads. This is also the area where stories say that the S-rank monster Fenrir died. Randall compliments her on being able to take out the goblins and assumes she must be at least an E-rank adventurer. He explains that adventurers are given ranks from G to S and the higher tier ones are very famous. All someone has to do is register at the Avengers Guild. The guild will also buy goods earned from slaying monsters and Fran becomes excited to earn some cash. However, someone in the carriage thinks about how it would be impossible for a black cat to ever become an adventurer. The next day they finally arrive at Elisa and some town people state how silly it is for such a small girl to be carrying such a large sword. Teacher notices all the swords but boasts about how none could compare to how strong he has gotten. However, a quick check with his analyze skills shows that they are all much stronger than him. Fran reassures him that he is still very special to her and the two head to the guild. At the guild, the receptionist is having a bad day and thinks about how she wishes everyone would just die. She reminds herself to calm down and is met by Fran. Fran explains that she wants to become an adventurer, but Null thinks about how a child wouldn't last 5 minutes and attempts to deny her. Null states that she would have to fight their examiner in a mock battle and will have to risk injury. Fran persists, so Null determines that the child will have to learn a hard lesson and takes her to meet the examiner Donna Draunt. Null is surprised to see that Donald's intimidation skill that usually scares away the weak does not affect Fran at all. Teacher analyzes him to see that he is incredibly strong and has an attack power of 650. Donna Draunt explains that he never holds back and teacher points out how this will be their toughest opponent yet. The test begins and Donna begins his assault. His attacks are forceful and relentless, so Fran can only manage to dodge. She refuses to just keep running away and teacher puts a buff on her to improve her attack power. With improved strength and agility, Fran manages to cut Donadran, but he states it won't be enough as he begins to heal. She badly wants to become an adventurer and teacher uses a combination of earth and fire spells to deal massive damage. Null is amazed that how Fran is able to use multiple spells without an incantation and Fran goes in for a final blow. It's a Dragon Fang attack that decisively ends the fight and Null is once again surprised to see that Fran built up one attack while also using other spells. Afterwards, the guild master Clint wonders how a 12-year-old is capable of such fighting prowess, but she refuses to tell. Teacher had told her to keep everything a secret, since telling people might expose their weaknesses. Clint attempts to use an identify skill to reveal her secret, but they have an identified protection skill. Clint decides to let her become an adventurer and explains that spirits are able to identify any evil intention someone may have, but they are calm at the moment. She is then asked to pick a class. Classes give different skills and abilities and everyone is shocked to see all the classes she can choose from. Teacher wonders if he has shared too many skills with her and she decides to pick the spell sword class. She's given her guild card, but they quickly realize they will need money for a room. Teacher tells her to pretend she is pulling from her item bag when she is really using the pocket dimension skill and releases several goods. They only sell the low and mid-rank materials and decide to save the good stuff. This still results in them receiving 195,000 gold payout. Some other adventurers then try to accuse her of doing underhanded things to earn the money, since that is the only way a black cat could do it. They assume she must have made a shady deal with Null, but Null intervenes. She explains that Fran's materials were perfectly handled and properly butchered. That is the reason they earned so much more than everyone else. Null wishes they would all just die and they attack her, but Fran stops them. Teacher explains that she shouldn't stab them inside the guild, but the dogman continues insulting Fran and his feet end up getting cut off. Teacher isn't even sure what happened, but Fran explains that she combined two skills to do it without even unchithing teacher. He is amazed by her progress and she uses a skill that does internal damage to finish the rest. Null states that it was all in self-defense and the two head out to buy some gear. But that's where this video ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.